Since I was a child, I disguised myself as a man and became a eunuch in the palace. Relying on the friendship of accompanying Emperor Zhengwen since childhood, I became the most favored eunuch around him. I used to have a hard time in the palace. But now that the dog is fighting people, I finally have a chance to take revenge. I excluded dissidents and arbitrarily dictated the country's affairs, and people called me 9000 years old at the time. And my loyal ministers often scolded me to the point of blood. I swear, sooner or later I'm going to shark them all. But, later, Prime Minister, why are you blushing? General, what are you doing with your head twisted? Your Majesty, don't tear our clothes. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. On the day when I was going to cut off my brother's descendants, he suddenly had a terrible pain in his stomach and kept rolling in bed. But when our house receives money, we must produce a man. My father and mother changed my brother's clothes and pushed me out. Twins, they're always alike. So I blended in with the crowd. It was a confused old eunuch who cleansed me. And I wiped a little pig's blood on my crotch and screamed. And when his old eyes were dizzy, I blended into the team that had been cut. Everyone was crying. And I opened my eyes wide to see the newly baked little eunuchs who were all over the field. And I also howled at the right time. After the howl, someone came to bring food, a bucket of steaming corn rice, a bucket of dull pig's blood soup. The old eunuch smiled. I have blood. I want to eat some pig blood to make up for it. This is not right. If the root is broken, you may not be able to eat the pig whip. I thought so, and I said so. The old eunuch laughed and scooped me a big spoonful of pig's blood soup. The sooner you accept that you are a rootless thing, the better you will live. I think so. I was rootless. I'm a woman. Men cry and grab the ground because they don't have that thing. But we women have never had that burden, and we haven't lived well. But I suggest to God, everyone should not have it in the future. And it will save the old eunuch a hard time. Since I entered the palace, my father and brother have left the capital with my money. I heard that they thought it was a shame to have a daughter who was a eunuch in the palace. How can you not feel ashamed when you take the money? However, after Yuan Sun ascended the throne, I still sent someone to find them back. They can't wait to follow my people into the capital, waiting to enjoy my blessings. Years later, they looked at me with tears in their eyes. Son, Daddy thinks you are so important. I asked kindly, why didn't you think to give me a letter when you left? My father wiped his tears. You took your brother's name and entered the palace to enjoy happiness. But we are really embarrassed outside the palace. Everyone says that we are a family without roots. It is really bitter. I nodded suddenly. It turned out that I was not afraid that my daughter would be implicated after being found out in the palace, but that I trusted my cleverness and wit. No wonder I enjoyed one bite at a time. They must have expected that my life should not be extinguished. Even if I was beaten to death by my master, I would be able to survive. Now they are looking at me with their eyes on me, and they want to ask me for money, a house, and a carriage. In fact, as I get older, I also feel that there is no overnight feud in the family. However, the root of all problems comes from that one. If they are still kept, they will naturally be bitter. I'm a good person, and I have to make them happy. So I personally ordered my brother and my father to be castrated. I looked at my frightened relatives and laughed heartily. A family is to be neat. Their insults to me were in my ears. Scold, scold louder. We've heard a lot of scolding. Now I am 9000 years old, and I am really above 10,000 people under one person. And everything I give to the emperor has to pass through my hands. And what the emperor eats and drinks depends on my mood. Who said eunuchs are bad? It's great to be a eunuch. I'm a bit out of tune. They say it's because people who are eunuchs are psychologically distorted, but they're not. It was like this when I first entered the palace. I was assigned to the farthest palace, in which a sickly young nobleman who had long since fallen out of favor brought a wilted kitten and cub Yuan Sun. The big palace maid and the big eunuch in charge had already run away, and there was only one little girl who was not very bright. Yunguoran said that she would cough 3 times in a sentence, and I advised her to lie down well, but as soon as I touched the quilt, it was full of reeds. Not even a bit of cotton, and it would only get colder and colder when I lay down. He cried with a sad face. My sisters are gone, your things are gone, and he can't find them. The young nobleman coughed and gasped. I have nothing to reward them. Only some old clothes. I watched coldly. Her own cubs were pale from the cold, and she was still there thinking about the reward. I persuaded Yunguran to get up and said to ventilate her. Then I burned the only broken quilt she had left. She watched in horror as the boiling tongue of fire licked the reeds, and I clapped my hands happily. It's beautiful, how warm. He looked at me like he thought I was crazy. I waved the broom on the side and slapped it into the fire, and it immediately burst into flames. The firelight added a lot of warmth to the gloomy and cold palace, and I laughed. Anything else burned for me. A small figure lunged up and knocked me down, but he was so thin that I kicked him away. Get out. Yuan Sun didn't say a word, only scuffled with me in a muffled voice, and He and Yunguran cried weakly on the side. They have been bullied in the palace for a long time, and they don't even dare to cry too loudly. The light of the fire alarmed the others in the palace, and I locked the door, and let the people outside knock on the ground. The Queen Mother has arrived. I opened the door, kowtowed, and wept and howled. Help, help, bold minion. The fire looked big, but in fact, a bucket of water disappeared immediately. Guanyin Bodhisattva who saves suffering. I shouted in a panic. Our mother hasn't eaten or drunk for more than 10 days. And the slave sees that the mother is really too cold to stand it. So he thinks about making a fire to keep warm, and the slave should die. Take the minions and burn them, so that we can warm our mothers. The queen's eyes showed incomprehension. Is there anyone else living here? Yunguran trembled. Yuan Sun hid behind her legs, revealing a pair of dark eyes, and the two of them couldn't say a word. I continued to wipe my tears. The master of the slave is Yunguran Nyang, and the little master, the sixth prince, Yuan Sun. The queen showed a look of sudden realization. Yes. The palace is almost forgotten. The emperor has slept with too many concubines, and the queen is too lazy to take care of it, and she can't manage it. However, it is really unheard of for concubines to be so cold that they burn cotton quilts to keep warm. The queen paused. Although this little eunuch almost burned down the palace, but it was also for his master, and his loyalty can be demonstrated, so he will be punished for 3 months. She glanced lightly at the head of the Internal Affairs Office. You should also be careful in what you do. After all, you are also His Majesty's people. On the same day, the charcoal winter clothes of the nobles and the prince were delivered, and in the evening, the nobles finally had a full meal. Good boy. Her face flushed a little, and she was finally able to say a full sentence. How old are you? What's your name? I said I was 6 years old, and my name was Su Linyuan. Actually, it was the name of a shiotsai near my house, and I wrote it down. My own name is Yuan, and it's very cheesy, and I don't like it. I don't have the surname Su either, but so what? No one points to me to pass on the lineage. I'm a woman. It doesn't matter what my last name is. I can have one last name a day. Yunguran nodded. Linyuan envy fish. It's better to retreat and close the net. I was so impressed with her that she had read a book. Yuan Sun had just gobbled up a lot of food, and now his stomach was bulging, and he looked at me curiously with a pair of clear eyes. How do you know that if you burn the quilt, you can get these things? Because crying children have milk to eat. In the past, my parents were also very partial to my brother, and the delicious food was always close to him. So I cried and rolled on the ground, and I had to divide half of the delicious food. My father is a bookkeeper, and he has a good understanding of literature and ink. And he has a good face, so he has to reluctantly obey my wishes in this situation. But he is very disdainful of my behavior. Scoundrel, what the most poisonous woman's heart. When he always said this, he looked at my brother approvingly. It is a gentleman's work not to fight or to rob. I roll my eyes every time I hear it. He doesn't have to grab it. Of course it's a gentleman. If my father dares to be partial, then I will make trouble. The Internal Affairs Office is greedy for my monthly money, so I will burn down the palace and make trouble with the Queen's mother, so that we can have clothes and charcoal. I didn't care so much about Yoon-gue and Yuan-sun at that time. But I can only live if they live. Yoon-gueran was probably stupid at reading. So he felt that backbone was more important than feeding his stomach. In fact, what you eat in your mouth is your own, because she left such an impression on me. I was not very happy to study, and when she taught Yuan-sun, she tried to let me learn with her, but I fooled her, so much so that later those ministers attacked me, saying that I didn't know how to learn and didn't have any ink on my chest, and I only thought it was funny. Sharks, give me sharks. When the knife was on their necks, they shook and suddenly changed their words, saying that I had both ability and moral integrity, and that I was knowledgeable. I sat on the chair of the rosewood master with a smile, hugged my little raccoon slave, and said slowly, "How do we remember that you scolded our family for being cunning and mean?" Their legs shook even harder, and finally their pants were dripping wet. I covered my nose in disgust and ordered my men, "Pull out the shark, throw it farther away, it stinks to death. The sour smell of the literati has smoked my father-in-law to death," after the Ministry of Internal Affairs sent things a few times. He slacked off, too. Where can an unfavored concubine go to sue? If you want me to say, Yoon-gueran should go to the queen to cry every day, or Yuan-sun should go to roll around and play tricks. It's a pity that these two people are thin-skinned and refuse to live or die. And he is a palace maid, so he wants to leave her some dignity. They can't pull down their faces, so naturally they can only go up with me, and the eunuchs are shameless anyway. So I rolled around outside the Internal Affairs office. Which shameless one shortens our mother's monthly silver? Is it going to kill our mother's mother and the 6 princes? I was born with a good voice, especially able to howl. And when someone did a white wedding in the past, they specially invited me to the funeral. I howled, "This month's monthly silver is in hand again." Yuan-sun didn't like to talk at that time, but he and I would also help when we were busy. And we were a good boy. I did the work in the palace very easily, much lighter than at home, and I spent the extra time digging around, rubbing some oil and water from time to time. When Yoon-gueran taught Yuan-sun to read and practice calligraphy, he and I avoided the eyeliner of the great eunuch of the imperial garden to catch sparrows and add food, and when we were discovered, we ran fast to avoid a good fight. There are a total of 4 mouths in this dilapidated heavy mountain hall, and I am so hungry every day. But I can always live in the palace with a share of silver. But later, Yoon-gueran became more and more sick, and the little medicine residue I found didn't work. Yuan-sun was so anxious that he wanted to cry, so I gave him an idea. We knelt on the way by the Queen Mother, and begged her to show mercy and send a physician to see her. Yuan-sun was very tolerant, kneeling motionless under the scorching sun. I couldn't do it. I shook my body from side to side to relieve the pain in my knees. Didn't wait for the Queen, but waited for Mrs. Xia, who was passing by, and Mrs. Xia's little grandson, Xia Qingliang. Yuan-sun raised his face and glanced at him, confirming that he was not the person he was waiting for. So he lowered his face and pursed his lips without saying a word. I secretly pushed him, and then bent down and said, "Greeting Mrs. Xia, the master of the slave is the 6th prince and Yoon-gueran, and now Yoon-gueran is sick. And the master wants to ask a doctor to go over and take a look. I always fish for oil in the palace, and I know a lot more things than Yuan-sun. I haven't seen Mrs. Xia, but I know his clothes." Xia Qingliang hurriedly greeted Yuan-sun. "Wei Chen has seen the 6 princes." Yuan-sun's face was a little panicked and a little embarrassed, and he didn't know how to react. I reminded in a low voice, "Why don't you ask the master? Wouldn't it be better to send a message to your majesty?" Yuan-sun immediately kowtowed. "Mother gave birth to me and nurtured me, and her kindness is like a mountain. Now he is riddled with physical illness, and his son has nothing to repay, but he can only do his best to do his best, and he is willing to exchange his life for a trace of mercy from the nobles." Mrs. Xia was slightly stunned. "The speech is very organized. Why haven't I seen you go to the imperial study?" Yuan-sun muttered, without grace. "I don't dare to go." Mrs. Xia hurriedly asked him to get up and took him to the imperial study with him. Mrs. Xie deliberately took the entrance examination for Yuan Sun along the way, but he walked very slowly, and I looked at Xie Qingliang dressed luxuriously, thinking about how to ask for some reward from him. I heard that some masters are generous, and they are rewarded with several taels of silver. I nodded and smiled. Master Xie, this is the first time you have entered the palace, he pretended. Not really. I took a sip in my heart and continued. Does Master Xie know about the recent happy events in the palace? He tilted his head. You are a eunuch. You can't lead the way well, but you talk to me. What kind of system do you become? This is one thing. And just now my grandfather asked the 6 princes, why did you steal the conversation? It's really no big or small. How do you learn the rules? I was stunned. It's not that I blow at myself. I was born with a pleasant face, crying and laughing, and since I entered the palace, I have never been scolded like this even when I went to the Internal Affairs office to ask for money. If you don't give a reward, you dare to reprimand me, my dignified third-class eunuch Su Linyuan. I gestured and slapped myself lightly. The slave deserves to die. Thank you for your forgiveness, but what I thought to myself was, I'm going to shark you. This is how I and Xie Qingliang's Liangzi got married. Mrs. Xie took Xie Qingliang and Yuan Sun into the house, and I waited outside the door. There was no one in the side hall one step away, but the table was full of snacks and tea fruits. I've been kneeling with Yuan Xuan for so long, and I'm even hungrier. I looked at the void, grabbed a few pieces of snacks and fruits, stuffed them into my arms, and quickly pretended that nothing was wrong. The emperor has arrived. My heart is beating like thunder, but luckily, thankfully, it wasn't seen. I'm so scared that my legs are weak, and Yuan Sun over there is not having a good time. This was probably the second time he had seen his father since he was born. However, when he came out, his expression was still quite calm, and Mrs. Xie said with a smile, that old minister will be waiting for the 6 princes in the imperial study tomorrow. Yuan Sun bent down to thank him, and I hurriedly bowed down. Without paying attention, the snack in his arms rolled out. I grabbed it and stuffed it back into my arms. Mrs. Xie didn't see it, but Xie Qingliang showed disdain, stealing chickens and touching dogs. You're tall, you're born with a golden spoon, you know a fart. Seeing that I was silent, Yuan Sun took me away after saluting, and it wasn't until there was no one else that he finally spoke. Yuan, I can't stand anymore. I quickly pulled out a few pieces of snack. Eat it. After kneeling for a long time, I went in and talked for a long time, and it was very good to be able to survive until now. Seeing that he was just looking at me and not moving, I added, not the one that fell to the ground. Yuan Sun obediently took a bite and motioned to me again. You can eat too. I was already hungry, so I took a bite of where he was eating, and my face was pleasantly surprised. Fresh snacks are delicious. He suddenly hugged me and buried his head in my neck without making a sound. It took me a long time to react. Is this child hungry? And collapsed. It took him a while to let me go, and I quickly shoved another piece for him. Take it yourself and eat it. I'll eat the piece that fell to the ground later. Yuan Sun was silent and pinched the cake. I happily told him that I also stole a fruit, and Yunguren couldn't eat these days, so he should be able to eat a few bites of fresh fruit. There is also a piece of clean snacks for Hihi. She loves sweet, and the Ministry of Internal Affairs doesn't know what kind of food to send today. I muttered, and after walking a few steps, I realized that Yuan Sun was too silent. He doesn't like to talk much, but when I speak, he always makes a few words, and today is probably scared. He just looked at me complicatedly, not knowing what he was thinking. It wasn't until much later that he told me that around the old emperor, even if they were just rough palace maids, they were much better dressed than Yunguren, not to mention eating and drinking. The fruit that I have stolen in every possible way is actually used to incense the temple, and no one will eat it, alas, in the future. My father-in-law, who holds the East Factory, leans towards the government and the opposition, and is majestic, has also had such a bitter moment. The old emperor finally discovered that he also had a brilliant son who still shined in the dusty harem. When Yuan Sun went to the imperial study for the first time, he wore his best clothes. He carefully mended and mended. I boiled hot water and scalded it several times with the bottom of the kettle, but it still seemed so out of place with the emperor's study. But by the time Yuan Sun started talking, everything didn't matter. Yuan Sun is smart and calm. Not only can he read 10 lines at a glance, but he can also recite at a glance. He looked at the emperor quietly, and although the etiquette was clumsy, it still made the old emperor's heart happy. Good. After Mrs. Xie met Yuan Sun, our lives were much better. I was promoted from the original third-class little eunuch to the second class, and I also served as the only personal eunuch of Yuan Sun. Not only had 2 months of money, but also could follow him to and from school, and the range of activities was much larger, making it easier to earn some rewards. There are even times when I can pretend to be a big eunuch with a whisk. Whether it can be dusted or not is the dividing line of eunuchs. There is only one bad thing. Xie Qingliang is the prince's companion in the study, and I have to see his stinky face every day. The princes had a snack every day in the imperial study, and the others were disdainful and disdained to eat it, and Yuan Sun didn't eat it either. But he wanted to take it back to Yunguren to eat. I whispered while I was polishing the ink for him, "It doesn't matter, I can get another one to take back to my mother, you can eat it with confidence." He suddenly leaned over gently. "I'm not hungry, Yuan, you can help me eat it." I swallowed. "I'm not hungry either." He picked up a piece of sweet cake and fed it to my mouth. It's so crispy, so sweet and fragrant. I couldn't help but squint my eyes and chew carefully, and Yuan Sun looked at me and smiled. Xie Qingliang can't scold Yuan Sun because he is the prince, but he can scold me. What a system, I sneered. "Master, this is a reward for slaves." "Why, Lord Xiaoxia, what our master is not willing to eat, the slaves can't do it for you." Xie Qingliang has to find fault and scold me every day. I didn't dare to reply, but later I found out that he just looked at me unpleasantly. But his attitude towards Yuan Sun was still very respectful, so he occasionally replied a few words when Yuan Sun was present, while I was packing the dim sum that no one was eating. Xie Qingliang paced behind me again. "Who allowed you to take it?" I turned my head and saluted perfunctorily. "Greetings to Lord Xiaoxia," he said coldly. "These things are all prepared for the princes. How can you, a eunuch, handle them without permission?" I thought about it for a while. "Dare to ask Lord Xiaoxia if these removed food boxes are going to be sent back to the imperial dining room," he said arrogantly. "If you know, why do you take it privately?" I smiled. Lord Xiaoxia misunderstood. "These food boxes are to be sent back to the imperial dining room, but the contents are to be thrown away, and I am helping out," he sneered. "Picking up other people's leftovers is like a lost dog." I looked up and looked at Xie Qingliang, the 32nd grandson of the Xie family, with a gold belt and jade pendant, and a frost-white river silk worth 1,000 gold. So I said, "Wang, when Yuan Sun was 16 years old, the old emperor was about to establish a prince. The princes are fighting very hard, but none of this has anything to do with us. First, Yuan Sun's mother's family is weak, and secondly, although the emperor has praised his cleverness, it is also indifferent to the whole. Yun Guorun still didn't survive after all. And he still died after hanging his life for more than a year." She cried and pulled me as she left. "Yuan Sun will entrust it to you." I quickly kowtowed. "Don't worry, mother." Yuan Sun watched quietly. There was not a single tear in his eyes, and he was very calm even when he was guarding the spirit. I was afraid that he would hurt in my heart, so I leaned over and said, "Master, there is no one now. You can cry if you want to." Yuan Sun shook his head. "There's nothing to cry about. It's good if she goes, so she won't be tortured here," I whispered. I heard that the 4 princes' mansion found a few documents that were very rebellious, as if they were colluding with my uncle's family. The old emperor has already sent 3 princes in a row, and they are all the happiest jumpers. I followed Yuan Sun to the imperial study every day, and I didn't know much words, but I was familiar with the eunuchs around the other princes. Don't look at the eunuch as the most inconspicuous and humble existence in the palace, but the eunuch is indeed the most smooth thing in this palace. The radius of activity of the palace maid is only the harem, and the courtiers are limited to the previous dynasty. and the eunuch is the only slave who goes to the harem in the former dynasty, and is a natural communication tool. But we're not real tools after all, and minions have eyes and mouths. Minions love gossip too. There are a lot of people who want to talk to me, not only because of my generosity, but also because I have a unique skill set. I heard from Xiao Weizi of the Internal Affairs Office in the Eunuch's office that Chen Guifei reprimanded the people from the Internal Affairs Office again today, saying that the people who delivered things were incompetent. After thinking about it carefully, I asserted, next time, you will only send her plum blossom patterned clothing. And you will not be scolded again. Colleagues came up and said, "What's that?" I turned my head and smiled at a person who was waiting for the minister to go to court, and a person who was in charge of the palace records. "You said that Lord Qingmei of Dali Temple married the fifth concubine again, and concubine Chen Guifei's family recently gave her plum blossom jewelry, right?" I was categorical. Master Mei and concubine Chen are tired. I analyzed it carefully. Chen Guifei's elder brother Chen Lu and Master Mei were Jinsher in the same year, and the two families often corresponded back then. And later Chen Guifei entered the palace. Did Lord Mei ask to be released as an official at that time? Did Chen Guifei not like to compete for favor when she first entered the palace? Later, when Master Mei came back, when the Chen family sent things to the concubine, they suddenly began to add a piece of jewelry, and it was all plum blossom style. Xiao Weizi. You are on an errand in the Internal Affairs Office. You know that Chen Guifei's favorite thing on weekdays is pomegranate flowers. But Chen Guifei also brings plum blossom jewelry every time. Master Mei's family has always given him a concubine, but he has never taken a wife. There are thousands of threads between people. As long as you hold on to a thread, you can always find the secret involved. I'm naturally very good at finding wires. This talent established me as a unique and exalted member of the eunuchs. When I can't figure out my master's thoughts, everyone will come to me. Some people scoffed. What if you don't marry a wife? You have married a 5-room concubine. Others laughed and scolded. It's useless for you to envy. We don't have that. After being a eunuch for a long time, I am not so persistent in this matter. I looked at them sincerely. Actually, it's the same with or without that thing. My colleague looked at me with admiration. Brother Su, you are really the most open-minded person I have ever met. Of course I can see it. I was born without. Once I accidentally said that I leaked my mouth. My colleague suddenly realized. It turns out that Brother Su, you are a heavenly eunuch, your father. But I could only nod my head heavily, not knowing whether to rejoice that this man was a fool or to be sad that I would have to bear the reputation of a celestial eunuch from now on. Come to think of it, I really want to shark this idiot. However, this fool later became my right and left hand in Dongchang, and I never sharked him. Other princes compete for the crown prince to fight for your life. But Yuan Sun still only studies and talks with Xie Qingliang or Xie Taifu every day, chatting about articles, and looks like everything is just the wind in his ears. But he stayed with Mrs. Xie for a longer time. I still happily eat and drink every day. Now the most popular are the 3rd prince of the queen and the 8th prince of Chen Guifei, whose mother's family is a big family and has strong strength. Chen Guifei suddenly deigned to come to the imperial study one day, and Mrs. Xia went to discuss with the emperor, and she said that she wanted to see if the subordinates who served the princes were dedicated. Each eunuch took turns to greet her, and when she asked a few words, she could go down after receiving the reward. Chen Guifei is such a good person. I happily lined up in the line, and when it was finally my turn, I saw the grandmother behind Chen Guifei giving Chen Guifei a look. What's your name? I nodded. Lao Ningnyang asked. The slave Xiao Su Zi is the personal eunuch of the 6 princes. Chen Guifei sneered. 6th prince? There are no 6 princes in the palace. A wild seed who climbs the bed. And even the eunuchs around him are eyesore, and the palace feels upset when he looks at it. I was alert, so I quickly knelt on the ground and kowtowed. But when I saw her red lips, I smiled and said, just reward this eunuch with 50 boards. Your Majesty's birthday is coming, and the red color also adds a little joy. I jerked my head up. the concubine will spare her life. My mind was frantically thinking about where I had offended her. And Yuan Sun immediately strode forward and bent down deeply. Please raise your noble hand. It was the servant of the retainer who polluted the eyes of the mother, and the retainer deserved to die. He kicked me in the ass and I immediately let out a wail. Chen Guifei sneered, there is no son like you in this palace. But since you want to intercede for him, then this palace dash. I was relieved. The palace will reward another 20 boards. Come, call me. Before the expression of joy on my face could disperse, my arms had already been pulled up by the palace people, a stool, the sound of the board hitting the flesh, and I let out a wail. This is different from the screams I made with a performative nature when Yuan Sun kicked me just now, and it was really painful. Yuan Sun immediately knelt down. Guifei Nyang, forgive her sins. Yuan Sun pleads on you. Chen Guifei said lazily. What are you afraid of? This eunuch is dead. And the palace will compensate you 2 more. I couldn't hear what they were saying. I just screamed and screamed. Yuan Sun kowtowed. Guifei Nyang spared his life. He served my mother, and he was her most trusted subordinate when she was dying. I just begged Nyang to spare his life, and it was also my filial piety. Chen Guifei smiled. What filial piety? A slut. If you die, you will die. Yuan Sun kowtowed again. Nyang spare her life. Spare your life. I was still at the beginning of the number, but then I couldn't even shout. I could only hum, and I couldn't even feel the pain of the board on my body. Nyang Yujia, Weichen has never been far away. Please forgive Nyang. Xie Qingliang's disgusting voice sounded. This eunuch is a rat crossing the street on weekdays. Everyone shouts and beats, and it is reasonable for the mother to hate him. It's just that if it is misinterpreted by someone with a heart, it will tarnish the reputation of the mother. Chen Guifei sneered. Xia Xiaolang is kind-hearted. Xie Qingliang seemed to kneel down. Nyang has always been merciful. What is the fate of a eunuch? It is not worth it to dirty Nyang's hands. Chen Guifei admired the tragic situation of me being beaten for a while, and watched Yuan Sun kowtow pleadingly for a while. Nyang spare my life. Finally, he lazily spat out. In that case, that's it. She moved lightly. Xia Xiaolang. You owe me once. Honggu is tired. Let's go. She left with the scent of plum blossoms, and Yuan Sun pounced. A1. The eunuch next to him reminded softly, Your Highness, hurry up and carry Xiao Suzi back. Now he is afraid that he will not be able to get up. It was probably Xiao Weizi who spoke, and as soon as he said hello, several eunuchs who were familiar with each other on weekdays surrounded him and directly lifted the spring stool. Xie Qingliang's voice was a little unstable. Quickly take my grandfather's name card and ask Imperial Dr. Du. I can't get dizzy. I said to myself, hold on, at least until you go back, and wait for Hihi to take over, otherwise, the fact that I'm a woman will be exposed. I can't afford to deceive the king. I tried to keep my eyes open and think, yes, I should have been wary of this. The maid next to Chen Guifei is the same villager as the personal little eunuch of the 9 emperor princes. And when we talked about Chen Guifei and Master Mei that day, although he was not present, Xiao Zhou who was present had always been good friends with him. It was my negligence. I am sad from it. Tears are rolling down drop by drop. I am not bad for Xiao Zhou on weekdays. It seems that the eunuch has no roots after all, and his mouth is not strict. Xiao Su, don't cry. My brother will help you find out about this. Xiao Wei gritted his teeth. How can what our eunuch said by himself that day reach the concubine? I was dying. It's Xiao Zhou. He ran out crying. A1. He is coming. You don't want to die. I took her hand and finally fainted with peace of mind. Imperial physician Du did not come to see me in the end. On the one hand, Chen Guifei stopped me, and on the other hand, Imperial physician Du himself was not very happy to treat a eunuch, and even refused to give medicine. I'm glad that if he did come to see me, I wouldn't have been able to save my life. However, when the other eunuchs heard about this, they secretly sent a few bottles of medicine for the treatment of board injuries, which were bought by the primary apprentices next to the imperial doctor. The eunuch was beaten a lot, and the imperial doctor refused to look at it. but the junior apprentice was willing to earn some money. He whimpered and helped me change my clothes and apply medicine, and was going to fetch me water and wipe my body. The door creaked behind me. I was groggy, and he came back so quickly. Someone gently wiped my sweat and tears from my cheeks with a rough hand towel, and the breath of this person reassured me, and I heard suppressed gasps of anger. I closed my eyes and fell into a deep sleep. Xiao Wei came secretly twice and told me that this matter was indeed revealed by Xiao Zhou. When chatting in the Eunuch house again, Xiao Zhou cried with a sad face. I didn't know it would be like this. I looked at him. He was born very pitiful, always bent over. I suddenly scoffed. Okay, I can't blame you for this. Xiao Zhou exhaled a long breath and smiled. Brother Su, you are such a good person, I said lightly, but in the future you won't appear in front of me. I smiled. We eunuchs are not a thing in the eyes of others. Men are not men, women are not women, parents do not have them, and the master is not reliable. Eunuchs, we can only rely on eunuchs. Let's sign up for a group to keep warm. We can also get a little comfort, and we can do something conveniently. I've always treated everyone as brothers and relatives before, but you even betrayed your own people, and I don't dare to talk to you anymore. Xiao Zhou, let me ask you, who are you now? And who are you going to tell this time? Xiao Zhou's face turned white. When you do things in the palace, what you are most afraid of is that there is no way, and sometimes a mention from others can let you escape with a life. There is a tacit understanding between the eunuchs. Try to make it easier for each other, and now, I want to turn this tacit understanding into my weapon, which can kill people, protect myself, and take me and Yuan Sun further. The first one to be killed is Xiao Zhou. Xiao Wei raised his leg and gave him a heartwarming foot. How good is Yuan to you? Who gave you the cake when you were hungry? When you can't do something, who comes up with the idea for you? Okay, I'll buy Yuan in a few words. I said coldly, that's all about it. I'm afraid that what we said in the past, I don't know who he will reveal to whom, who hasn't complained about their master in private, who can remain like a stone without opening his mouth, who hasn't said a few words of disobedience. When we were talking, Xiao Zhou was there. The faces of the other eunuchs became more and more gloomy, and I slowly stood up and looked condescendingly at Xiao Zhou, who was shaking on the ground. Guys, I have a plan. My East factory, my home. The construction of the palace depends on everyone. Before, I always said that I wanted to kill Xie Qingliang, but he reprimanded me at every turn, saying that I was unruly, lazy and stubborn. Xiao Zhou always has a brother Su, and he always nods and bows beside me, but in the end, Xiao Zhou sold me in order to have a chance to show his face in front of his master. If there were a few taels of silver, I wouldn't say anything, but he didn't get any good money. On the contrary, Xie Qingliang, who looked at me everywhere, knelt in front of Chen Guifei to intercede with me and tried to find me a doctor, unsuccessful. When I met Xie Qingliang again, I took the initiative to greet him, and after an unknown number of years, I finally smiled at him sincerely. Little Lord Xie is worshipped by a slave. Xie Qingliang looked at me with a little stunned look. I laughed. The minion is already good. In the future, if Master Xie has any orders, the slave will never give up. He didn't speak, just looked at me. But I saw some dust at the corner of his clothes, so I approached and bent down to brush it off for him. When I stood up and took a step back, I found that Xie Qingliang's face was flushed. You are a minion. What do you do makes the smell smelly? After he finished scolding me, he hurried away from the wilderness. I sniffed my shirt inexplicably. It doesn't smell special, it's just the smell of soap. Forget it, I don't bother with him. Yuan Sun seems to have been discussing something with Mrs. Xie recently. I probably know what he wants to do, and I heard that the emperor seems to be going to marry the princes recently. There are two ladies who are most loved by the princes. One is Xie Qingliang's sister, Mrs. Xie's granddaughter, and Xie Mengyao, the talented daughter of the Xie family who is famous in the capital, is elegant, beautiful and has a good temperament. The other is the daughter of General Gu Linlin, The pearl of the frontier. I heard that she is also a girl. Marrying a wife mainly depends on her father or grandfather, or even her brother, who has little to do with herself, as long as she is a woman and can have children. It doesn't matter if you can't give birth. Taifu Xia and old General Gu are still alive. The admiration of the princes turned into love letters and flew to Xia Mansion and the frontier, and several horses were tired to death. It would be nice if there was one who could point it to Yuan Sun. I beat my chest and hurriedly asked if the Xia family and the Gu family had any unfavored daughters. Half a month later, the emperor made a decree. Xia Mengyao and Gu Linlin all pointed out to Yuan Sun. Xia Mengyao is the wife, and Gu Linlin is the wife. On the day the decree was given, I was so excited that tears came out of my eyes. The pies that fell from the sky were almost knocking me out. The emperor's meaning is uncertain. Could it be that he really cares about Yuan Sun? The strength of his wife's family has made up for the shortcomings of his mother's family, and Yuan Sun is now really able to compete for the throne. After the person who announced the decree left, Yuan Sun bowed his head and didn't speak. I pushed him and shouted in a deep nasal voice, "Your Highness." He suddenly stretched out his arms and grabbed me, tilted his head slightly, and looked at me with a pale face pleading, "You believe me, this is not my plan. When the child is older, he will plan for himself. I have mixed feelings, and tears are falling like this." His face grew paler. "Please believe me." I was moved to put my arm on his shoulder. "Believe it." Yuan Sun's face finally regained a little ruddy. Yuan, you know the only thing I want in my heart." I covered his mouth. "Don't say it." He bit my finger and suddenly smiled like a spring breeze between his eyebrows. When the boy heard that he was going to marry a wife, he was so happy. Also, we have worked hard for so long, and the old emperor finally found out that Yuan Sun was good. I have a feeling that my family has just grown up, and I think of the grievances we suffered together before. And I didn't notice that Yuan Sun held my hand to cover his mouth. "Don't cry. I only have dash in my heart." I leaned into his ear. "I know everything. Chen Guifei beat me that day. You see the anger and hatred in her eyes. I know what you are thinking. Don't worry. I think the same as you." A hint of hatred flashed in his eyes, but he quickly became shy. "You know." I lowered my head, my lips almost on his earlobe. "You and I grew up together since childhood, and we have been together until now." How could I not know? His ears were crimson. "I thought you never knew my mind." I wiped away tears of excitement. "How?" I suppressed the excitement in my heart and burst into tears. "The slave only knows. You want to be the emperor in your heart. The slave is a broken body, and he will definitely help you to that position." It must have been that day that Chen Guifei stimulated him, and he realized that it was good to have power. I blew my nose. The thought of us getting closer and closer to that seat made the minions cry with excitement. Yuan Sun's expression froze, and I intimately helped him up. "Quick, Your Highness will write a letter to Miss Xie and Miss Gu now, and the time has come to show your sincerity. Although our mother's family is not prosperous, we have sincerity." Why is Your Highness looking at the minion with such eyes, but tired? The slave went to the Ministry of Internal Affairs and asked how the marriage was arranged. "Our heavy mountain hall is too old, and if we have wronged the two girls for a happy event here, we must change to a new palace." Hee. Come on, exultation, great joy. The noble lady has a spirit in the sky, and our master is getting married. The minions have lived up to your promise. I turned my head to look at Yuan Sun with a gloomy face. "Quick, come and put incense on Yang Yang." Yuan Sun looked at me deeply, but he still obediently gave Yunguren incense. He whispered with incense, "On Yang, my son now has a sweetheart." After saying that, he beckoned to me. "Come and kowtow." I knelt down. "Mother, the slave has lived up to your entrustment and raised the master well." Yuan Sun coughed lightly. "Don't worry, Auntie. She's fine." I nodded appreciatively. "Miss Xie is naturally good, but in fact, except for Taifu, the rest of the Xie family is not very satisfied with this family business." So Yuan Sun said that he still has a brother who is not yet married, and the marriage with Miss Xie will be postponed first. The Xie family was very satisfied with his acquaintance and readily agreed. The Gu family didn't seem to be in a hurry. Although the little girl Gu was sent back to the capital by her brother to be married, but I heard that she also rode a horse and archery every day, and her kung fu did not fall at all. It doesn't matter what kind of person Gu Linlin is. The Gu family has been brave for generations, guarding the frontier, and sending a girl into the royal family is also a way to show loyalty. As for the Xie family, I don't know what tacit understanding Yuan soon reached with Mrs. Xie, but when I saw Xie Qingliang, I still said congratulations with a smile on my face. Now our master is already overjoyed, just waiting for the good news of Lord Xiao Xie. Yifeng is handsome, Yushu is in the wind. I don't know which girl has such good luck. You must carefully choose the good ones. But you can't insult your master's talent and character. After all, Xie Qingliang and Yuan Sun are still brothers-in-law, and it is best for Mrs. to choose a family background that is helpful to Yuan Sun. Xie Qingliang turned his head, his ears a little red, his voice was arrogant, but the corners of his mouth were slightly raised. I am used to flamming my tongue. I leaned over. Master, although some girls are good, they also want to look at the rest of the family. Such as the girl from Lu Shilong's family. I don't have to choose, but I heard that Lu Xie likes to go through the back door, and only loves young and beautiful rabbits, and I don't know which tendon is wrong. Xie Qingliang's face suddenly stiffened. What a rabbit is not a rabbit, master. Run off at the mouth. Thou hast spoken so freely. Beware that I may let my sister punish thee. I was stunned. This Xie Qingliang is sick. If he hadn't been kind to me, I wouldn't have told him this precious news. He was still very angry. You minion, who let you come so close to me? The stench on my body and my body has reached me. I don't smell anything. Lao Tzu is a woman, fragrant, sure enough. If the beam is knotted, it is not suitable to solve it. I jumped 3 feet high. Yin and Yang weird. Why, Miss Xie hasn't married in yet, and Master Xie has started to put out money. In fact, Miss Gu is heroic, hardy and pure, but she is a little younger, so she is just a flat wife. Both ladies are the same. Lord Xie didn't use Miss Xie to press me, and he talked about the harem in vain, which is not a proper system. Xie Qingliang glared at me and said in a suppressed voice, "Isn't Gonggung Su talking about Miss Gu now?" I was right. Our family is a rootless thing. Should Master Xie also castrate himself? Ha dash. Xie Qingliang was about to sneer at each other, but he heard a cold mockery. This father-in-law said it well. What a character my sister is. If it weren't for your Xie family's bullying, my family's Lin dash. The person who came was a tall and sturdy young man with a slightly dark complexion, which was in strong contrast with Xie Qingliang, who was tall and long, and I bowed down. General Gu is overjoyed. The other party nodded heartily. Father-in-law is polite. I smiled on my face. The slave is the personal eunuch next to the 6 princes. I have heard that Miss Gu is heroic and pure-hearted, and our master admires her very much. General Gu Shao is a person who is full of joy and anger, and when he saw that I was full of praise for Gu Linlin, he immediately stood on the same front with me. Gonggung Su has a good eye, and he deserves to be the person next to His Royal Highness the 6th. General Gu Shao is really a sweet. He specially sent Gu Linlin back to Beijing to get married this time, so he stayed in Beijing for a few more days, wanting to watch his sister get married before leaving. It's just that Miss Xie postponed her marriage, and Miss Gu also had to postpone it. I smiled reservedly. General Gu Shao is overrated. The little general has been away from the capital for a long time, and if there is anything he can't remember for a while, just order the minions. The minions will do it for you. General Gu Shao was very happy. Father-in-law Su is polite and bold, unlike some people, who have one thing on the surface and one thing behind the other. In fact, Xie Qingliang is not a set on the surface and behind the scenes, and others have no good looks for me before and after. Now that he heard what General Gu Shao meant, he glared at the two of us even more angrily. But it didn't stop me from laughing. The little general is so good at talking. Miss Gu will marry my master in the future, and the slave will definitely serve her well, and she will never let Miss Gu suffer any grievances. Xie Qingliang's face on the side turned red and white. In this world, the most important thing in a woman's life is the favor of her husband. Even if she is a wife, if her husband does not like it, her status will be unstable. Now that General Gu Shao and I have a very happy conversation between these words, I may not be biased towards Gu Linlin in the future. No matter how powerful Xie Qingliang is, he can't reach out to the harem. As soon as a woman gets married, she becomes a finch in a cage. Depending on the generosity of the feeding, whether Xie Mengyao will have a good life in the future depends on Yuan Sun and her father-in-law. Xie Qingliang's expression was anxious, hesitant, and angry. But I didn't want to pay attention to him now. I affectionately took General Gu Zhao's hand. The young man's fingers were covered with calluses. Well, he had been on the battlefield, not relying on the prestige of the Gu family to mix military exploits. It's windy outside, General Gu, please sit inside. He hesitated, then suddenly took my hand back. Gangdang Su's hands, how slender as a woman. I immediately raised the dust whisk to smear him, after the marriage. The old emperor seemed to be a little warmer about Yuan Sun and began to deliberately let him participate in some political affairs. The third prince and the eighth prince originally fought to the death, but in this matter, they showed an amazing tacit understanding, and the matter assigned to Yuan Sun was not trivial. At least it was insignificant. For example, the second colt of the eldest princess of Nanyang died again. Should she find it again or simply become a nun? For another example, King Pingxi is old and wants to inherit the title with a child. Who is the right person to find? For another example, Prince Cheng suddenly became paralyzed. Did he send a doctor over? And the real military aircraft, military affairs, and personnel transfers will definitely not be Yuan Sun's turn. However, he was not annoyed, and only slowly looked through the records of the Zhongren mansion. I leaned over with a grin. Master, these things are easy to do. He glanced at me, and his voice was calm. What does Gangdang Su have to say? Ever since that day I punctured his mind. He seemed to have been a little angry. When the child is older, his mind is not easy to ponder. I bent down and smiled. What the master said, the slave has nothing to say. It's just a few jokes to tell the master. I got a lot of information, and I was whispering to Yuan Sun when he suddenly said, I can't hear clearly. You come closer. I looked at him inexplicably. It was just me and him. My voice was small, but his ears were not broken. But I moved closer to him. Closer. I laughed. Master, I'm afraid I'm going to stick it to you. His eyes were dark. Just when I suspected that something had happened to him, he suddenly spoke up and began to discuss business with me. After some discussion, we agreed that, 1. The princess can't be blamed for the death of the eldest princess of Nanyang. That is because he is not blessed. The princess is noble, and her husband is incompetent and can't stand the royal extravagance and died, and it is not the princess's fault. So the next colt to find for the princess must be expensive, and it must be expensive. Therefore, the next time the princess chooses a horse, the candidate must first ask the national teacher to calculate. And the fate of the unblessed and noble can't be wanted. Yuan Sun thought so. Second, the king of Pingxi himself said in his excerpt that the lord of Fujia is now in charge of the affairs of the fiefdom, which is very popular. And this time it is nothing more than retreating as advance. And he wants to seek a name for his daughter and live a clear path here with his majesty. The county lord is serious about calling Pingxi Wang's father, and the people of the fief love the county lord very much. And she will not write and speak and issue instructions because she is missing. Although there is no precedent for the lord to inherit the title in this dynasty, His Majesty's move can be described as conforming to heaven and earth and conforming to the will of the people, and it is really a model for all generations. Your Majesty will have the heart of King Pingxi's love for his daughter. Yuan Sun thought so. Third, Prince Cheng is hemiplegic and wants to invite the imperial doctor. I think it is good to let the imperial doctor go. This is not a good errand. Prince Cheng has a short temper. Although the lower half of his body is half paralyzed, it does not affect the upper body and scolds people. Nor does it prevent him from throwing things, and the head is quite good. The unlucky Thai doctor is inevitably smashed to the point that his head is bleeding. Before, I was rewarded by Chen Guifei, and I wanted to ask Imperial Doctor Du for a bottle of medicine. But now he keeps the medicine for his own use. Yuan Sun thought deeply. Yuan Sun didn't think so. Yuan, this is not good. I hurriedly bent down. This is just a slave's foolish opinion, and everything is left to the master. Yuan Sun smiled slightly, lifted the pen and danced with the dragon and Phoenix, and invited the emperor to ask Imperial Doctor Du to go to Prince Chang's mansion to serve Prince Chang until Prince Chang recovered. I clapped my hands and laughed. Master Shang Ming. General Gu Shao said that he hit me off and wanted to invite me to drink, but in fact, I knew that he wanted to inquire about his eldest brother-in-law Yuan Sun. The little-known sixth prince married his sister, and he was definitely not at ease. As a result, I found out that he really just wanted to drink with me, and didn't ask me anything about Yuan Sun at all. About Yuan Sun, Gu Linlin asked by himself. She was a sturdy girl with dark skin, very straightforward and lively. Father-in-law Su. My brother told me, I will look for you when I get married. You are a reliable person. I will respect you first for this cup. I didn't even know that I had such a high evaluation in General Gu Zhao's heart. Drink, that must be drunk. Gu Linlin boldly dried it in 3 sips, and then patted me on the back. Why are you so drunk? I was so frightened by her that I choked on several sips of the liquor and coughed so much that my face turned red. Gu Linlin hurriedly went to get me water. Gu Wenshan looked at me. His eyes brightened. Father-in-law Su, you are blushing. I glared at him. Isn't your sister choking? He scratched the back of his head and smirked. I've never seen anything like you. I drank the rest of the wine in 1 gulp. It's worth. Gu Linlin asked me, what kind of person is Yuan Sun, and is Xie Mengyao getting along? Were our foals sold in the capital? The first 2 questions are easy to answer, but I really don't know the last one. She asked again if she could meet Yuan Sun and Xie Mengyao. I said that it was easy to meet Xie Mengyao, and I had to arrange it to meet Yuan Sun. However, I glanced at Gu Linlin's man's outfit and reminded him euphemistically, if you see someone, it's better to restore your daughter's appearance. Gu Linlin didn't have women's clothes. Gu Wenshan waved his hand, and asked Suiyun Pavilion, Ruoxia Feng, and others to quickly send the latest ones to Gu Linlin to choose. General Gu Shao grabbed me. Gongdang Su is in the palace. He must know the current fashionable tricks. It is better to stay and pick one for my sister. What am I picking? I'm not dash. Oh, forgot. I'm a woman. But I didn't really pay much attention to these things. So I picked the heaviest gold, the biggest jade, and the most valuable. General Gu Shao picked up a hairpin and gestured. Gongdang Su, how about this? I habitually smiled kindly, naturally. He gestured over my head, yes. I glanced at it and hurriedly saluted and said goodbye. General Gu and Miss Gu are picking slowly, and the slaves are going back to the palace first. General Gu Shao looked regretful. Gongdang Su is going back to the palace now. I laughed. I still have to do things for my master, and General Gu Shao doesn't have to send it. He hurriedly chased after me, like a reluctant dog. How about inviting Grandpa Su to drink next time? I turned around and looked at me with a blank look. Still didn't hold back, and used a coaxing tone to coax the dog. Okay, you go home first, and play together next time. He went back rejoicing. I feel that the border defense of Western Xinjiang is very worrisome. When I went back, I discussed his marriage with Yuan Sun. I mean that the bag is safe, while the emperor still has this heart. Marry first. Although it is tricky on Miss Xie's side, but fortunately, the Gu family brothers and sisters do not seem to reject this marriage. If it is really not good, then marry Gu Linlin first. Yuan Sun meant that he was not in a hurry, and rash action would cause the emperor's suspicion. I was silent for a moment. Then the slave will find you a concubine. Yuan Sun's face suddenly turned red. What nonsense. I wondered, the 3rd prince and the 8th prince have several beautiful concubines. And the master's side is still empty. How long have you been an adult, and you are not afraid of suffocating your body? Yuan Sun's face was bright red. What can't you hold back? I dash. I thought he was shy, and I relieved. What's so embarrassing about this? Your clothes are all packed by minions. What else don't you know? Yuan Sun yanked me and covered my mouth. I couldn't help laughing. The slave lost his word. Please forgive the master. His eyes sparkled. If you talk nonsense, I'll punish you. He hesitated for a long time, but after all, he still didn't think about what to punish me. I grinned. Just punish the slave for keeping the night for the master for a month. Now we have left the dilapidated Chongshan Palace, moved into the Fenghe Palace, and added a lot of manpower, and I don't have to do the chores with He himself. I have also been promoted to the head of the Fenghe Palace, and He has become Aunt He. What is the ascension of chickens and dogs? I just walk around with a whisk every day. Oh, and with Xiao Weizi, they discussed the matter of the East Factory. This matter can only be done quietly at present, but Yuan Sun knows that the two of us are in the light and in the dark, and strive to create an image of the 6 princes who do not fight or rob, innocent and helpless. After the 4th and 9th children were wary of Yuan Sun for a while, they found that there was really no need, although he has married 2 powerful wives. There is no sign of marriage at present, as if it is really the whim of the old emperor, and Yuan Sun is very happy to do the trivial things in the sect, so their focus was on each other again. Yuan Sun and I buried the royal family tree all day long, but I was dizzy when I read the dense words. I was really tired, and I couldn't help but pull Yuan Sun to play cards. I wrote everyone's name on a cut piece of paper. I'll make a concubine. Yuan Sun pondered and pushed out a piece of paper. Eldest Princess Pingxi. I smiled and said, I'll have a queen mother. Yuan Sun said lightly, Lord Fuhua, the little daughter of the queen mother, with the same love as her eyes. There is also mutual restraint between people, and it is often not necessarily proportional to status. The cards are played, and Yuan Sun doesn't even go to the imperial study. Xie Qingliang came to the door to look for it a few times. And I haven't forgotten the last time the two of us broke up unhappily, and said in a strange tone, how can such a trivial matter let Lord Xiao Xie come to the door in person? Xie Qingliang raised his head arrogantly, but glared at me. What are you doing so far away from me? I shook off the dust. There is a smell on our body. I'm afraid of smoking. Xiao Xie. Xie Qingliang's noble head lowered slightly. Who said that? Your taste. I interrupted him in a weird way. Yes, yes. Our family smells bad. How many times does Master Xie have to say it before he stops? Stand down and let the good others serve you. With that, I'm going to step down. Xie Qingliang grabbed my hand. I was puzzled. What advice does Lord Xiao Xie have? He suddenly didn't say anything. Your hands are really thin. I don't know when it started. Not only Yuan Sun, but even Xie Qingliang is much taller than me, but it doesn't matter. Eat me a slap of dust. Xie Qingliang took 2 steps back and covered his nose. The first time Gu Winshan saw you, he did something to you. You are the personal eunuch next to His Royal Highness. You are really unseemly. If Xie Qingliang said that I would be able to get a tael of silver if I didn't say a word, I would probably be the richest person in the palace. Master Mei is a seed of infatuation. Xiao Wei sighed to me. The two of us drank the preming tea that was paid tribute to the old emperor. While chatting and exploring this character, at this age, he still doesn't marry a wife, and only focuses on Zhang Luo, the 8th prince of Chen Guifei. I skillfully rested the tea lid on the eaves of the cup, enjoying the fresh and elegant fragrance of the tea before the Ming dynasty. True love is true love, but I haven't seen him go to the Qingluchu pavilion, and there are many concubines in the family. It is estimated that Chen Guifei has also given a lot of benefits. Whether it is true love or use, who can tell? Xiao Wei pondered. I'll let Feng Si go and check. Feng Si is the idiot who thinks I'm a heavenly eunuch. I nodded. Recently, the 8th emperor has been in the limelight, and the attitude of the eunuchs around him is also swaying. I don't like this kind of minion, and I really think about the master. Xiao Wei looked at me, and I glared at him. What do you think I do? I took a sip of tea. If Yuan Xuan ascends the throne, I am sure that Dongcheng will become an upright institution. Xiao Wei glared. Really? I laughed. naturally. Whoever helped him up, that is a great kindness. This grace, our East factory is going to be decided. Xiao Wei hesitated. What if he unloads the mill and kills the donkey afterwards? I cherished the last sip of my tea. So what else do you have to say? How can there be a wealth that does not play with life, if you are timid? Then it would be good to continue to be the head of the eunuch of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Xiao Wei thought for a while. I didn't speak, only continued to drink 2 brews of tea. When I got my 3rd bubble, Xiao Wei made up his mind. It's done. We'll believe you once. I laughed and saluted him with a tasteless 3-brew tea. Master Mei's business. Please keep an eye on it. He nodded in agreement. At night, I kept vigil for Yuan Sun and carefully explained these things to him. And he twisted his eyebrows. The 8th brother's river flood has been well cured, and he has received a lot of praise in front of his father. I sneered. Chuanping County is the place where the Meidu Mountain was released before. How it is treated. We still have to wait for our people to take a look. I reclined on the edge of the bed, sat on a footstool, and bent one leg. Even if there are endless minions now, Yuan Sun still only needs me or Hihi to keep vigil for her. I don't have to go outside the door for 2 vigils. I just sleep on the soft couch in the inner room, and I have my own special bed. Yuan Sun put the blanket over me. What did Grandpa Wei say? I grinned. Naturally, he wants to follow his master. But when the time comes, the master should not treat him badly. Yuan Sun said lightly. What about you? Aren't you afraid that I will treat you badly? I looked up at him and smiled. Will the master treat me badly? He bent down from the bed, almost touching my forehead, never conceiving. His breathing was distinct and audible, reminding me of the day I was beaten and he slept with me in my room. I sighed softly. Master, you are so good. The slave must go to the soup for his majesty. And he will not hesitate. Yuan Sun suddenly had an expressionless face. I'm sleepy. Let's sleep. I diligently covered him with a quilt, wondering whether I should find him a concubine. Gu Linlin said that he wanted to see Xie Mengyao, and I could only go to the imperial study to find Xie Qingliang in this matter. In view of the fact that the 2 of us had broken up again before, I was ready for Xie Qingliang to dry me for 2 hours. Unexpectedly, he immediately let me in. I bowed down. Greetings to Lord Xiao Xia, the slave came over today. And there is really a reluctant request. Xie Qingliang got up solemnly. Now that the 6th prince is the celebrity in front of the emperor, and Gongdeng Su is the henchman of the 6th highness, he can walk sideways in the palace. What else can be used by the minister? I laughed. This is really torturous for the minion. What is the ability of the minion? This matter, you have to find Xiao Xie to do it. A smile seemed to flash across his face, but he quickly regained his lofty appearance. What's the matter? Tell me about it. I picked up the papers that were littered for him. Miss Gu admires Miss Xie's talent and wants to pay a visit, but I don't know what Miss Xie thinks. Xie Qingliang hesitated. Why don't you pay homage to the Xie family? I explained. Miss Gu doesn't want to be restrained. She wants to meet in private first. Xie Qingliang frowned. This is not quite in line with the rules. I said politely, they're better girls to talk in private. In fact, the peony flowers happen to bloom in Shuamei Villa, so you should accompany the eldest lady to enjoy the flowers. Xie Qingliang thought for a while, and asked thoughtlessly, you are going with you? I was puzzled. What are the minions going to do? He was right. If there was no Gongdeng Su present, wouldn't His Royal Highness the 6th Highness be uneasy? As long as Grandpa Su goes, I can discuss it with my sister. I didn't know about his brain disease on the first day, so I immediately smiled perfunctorily. Yes, since Master Xiao Xie has spoken, the slave must go anyway. Please leave in peace. Xie Qingliang smiled with satisfaction. Half-truth. Actually, if you want to leave the palace, I can ask for a favor from the 6th Highness for you. What grace do you ask? Yuan Sun's voice came faintly from behind him. I didn't even know. Ah, Yuan, you still have something to entrust Qingliang. I immediately cleared it up. The master misunderstood, and the slave came to speak for Miss Gu. Yuan Sun's eyebrows were still calm. What does she have to bother you to pass the word? Who is your master? I immediately begged for mercy. Master, spare my life, Xie Qingliang sneered. Is it for Miss Gu, or for Gu Winshan? His Royal Highness knew that the two of them were almost one at first sight. No, Xie Qingliang, you are not only sick, but you are really sick. However, Yuan Sun didn't show any anger. Yuan is my minion, and I naturally know everything about him. I laughed. Slaves don't dare to hide anything. I hurriedly added, Miss Gu wants to hold a banquet at Shuamei Villa and pay a visit to Miss Xia, but the slave is just passing on a word, and she will never go there privately. Yuan Sun motioned for me to get up. It's okay, if you want to go, you can go. Seeing that I was surprised, he smiled slightly. I'll go too. Oh, I wanted to see my wife on the day of the peony viewing. The weather was excellent. The three of us met in the Chi-Wu Pavilion, saluted each other, recognized people, and I was busy clearing the field and arranging the food and drink. They were chatting in the pavilion, and I was outside on guard. A little eunuch came over and whispered, Father-in-law Su, the people we sent to Chuanping County are back. I nodded. Tell him to come back to me later. I still wanted to give a few words, but I saw Yuan Sun beckoning, so I hurriedly stepped forward. Master. What's wrong? Yuan Sun smiled. It's okay, there are no outsiders here, and you don't have to guard outside. Come in and sit. I was flattered. Thank you, Master, but the minions are used to serving you, so let's stand here. Xie Qingliang snorted coldly. I don't see you much on weekdays, but now I'm paying attention to it. Gu Winshan had already moved a round stool upside down. Yuan, you can sit. I hurriedly held his hand. The little general is not going to torture the minion. He was about to pull me to sit down. Xie Qingliang's fan suddenly thrust horizontally, and his entire arm was separated between me and General Gu Shao. Pull and pull. What kind of system? I took the opportunity to push him. Shao Xia, please sit down, and the slave will make you tea. Xie Qingliang didn't move, and Yuan Sun asked coldly, Yuan, where is the bifeng I want to drink today? Gu Linlin probed beautifully. Father-in-law Su, didn't you say to bring me flowers and cakes today? Gu Winshan was aggrieved. Is it only Linlin? Okay, let's make a mess of porridge and drink it while it's hot. Fortunately, Miss Xie is a good person. Grandpa Su, can you pick a peony for me? I immediately emerged from the crowd like a swimming fish, and saluted Miss Xie with gratitude. Minion, let's go. I took 2 steps back. The minions have already prepared tea and snacks. Please use them slowly. The clever little eunuch rushed up, and the bifeng that Yuan Sun wanted to drink. The Lushan purple bamboo shoots that Xie Qingliang liked, and the flower cakes of the Gu family brothers and sisters were all available. I stepped on the mud and went to pick the most beautiful peony for Miss Xia. By the way, I heard the little eunuch whisper in my ear that the river flood control in Chuanping County was not as successful as the 8th prince claimed. It was a mess. Thousands of miles of fertile land were flooded, and there was no need to count on this year's harvest. And the victims even ran to Qingyuan County next door. However, the county order of Chuanping County was pulled by Meidoshan, and if you still want to mix it up, it is impossible to say that the 8th prince is not good. I folded a delicate peony flower and smiled slightly. The new concubine of the eldest princess of Pingxi. It seems that she was born as a speaker. The little eunuch nodded. Yes, I laughed. Then I'll bother you, and I'll tell him about it. Yuan Sun single-handedly facilitated the marriage of the eldest princess and the new concubine, and they will help with this little favor. I returned to the pavilion with a bottle of peonies, and Xie Mengyao was looking at Gu Linlin with envy. I heard that my sister grew up in western Xinjiang and has superb writing skills, quite the style of an old General Gu. Gu Linlin's face showed an uncontrollable melancholy. I thought that when I grew up, I would be able to share the affairs of the army with my brother and my father, but I didn't expect me to return to Beijing. I didn't mean that I didn't want to marry you, Your Highness 6. It's just that I grew up in western Xinjiang. She shook her head quickly, as if to shake off the troubled thoughts. Yuan Sun comforted her. Miss Gu doesn't let her eyebrows, but it may be that Gu Linlin is too troubled, and the newly bought jade hairpin was thrown out by her and smashed on the ground. For a while, everyone was a little silent. It doesn't matter. Flattery is our family's forte, blossoming on the ground, wealth and glory. This is a good intention. I offered the peony flower, and Yuan Sun behind me seemed to move. But when I turned my head, he just smiled at me. Xie Mengyao looked at me very gently, and gave me a reward. I'm tired of father-in-law Su. Xie Mengyao smiled slightly. Since ancient times, loyal ministers and auxiliary monarchs have experienced many hardships. Su Gongdang has been loyal, and has endured humiliation and burden. Since ancient times, there is no shortage of loyal ministers, and Su Gongdang's sincerity runs through the sun and the moon. And the righteousness is thin and cloudy, which is really very accessible. Xie Mengyao was probably praising me, but I'm not sure. I didn't understand, and I looked at everyone's expressions, and the Gu brothers and sisters didn't understand either. However, General Gu Shao was more melon, so he asked directly, "What?" A little crimson appeared on Xie Mengyao's face. I mean, Gongdang Su has always been by the side of the Sixth Highness, and his loyalty is commendable. The brothers and sisters of the Gu family suddenly realized, and I hurriedly saluted. This is all the duty of a slave. Xie Mengyao is really a talented girl, and when she and Yuan Sun get married, she must be very talkative. Xie Mengyao continued. I heard that Gongdang Su entered the palace at a young age, but there is still a family outside the palace. I can ask His Highness for a favor and take my family to reunite outside the palace. Yuan Sun's voice suddenly became cold and hard. Yuan's affairs, don't bother outsiders. I hung my head. Thank you, I miss, for all your hard work. But my family is dead. I turned my head and said in a voice full of emotion, Master, the slave can only rely on you. Yuan Sun's face turned from gloomy to clear. You and I have a deep friendship, and it has long surpassed the relationship between master and servant. I always felt that those words were not what Xie Mengyao wanted to say, so I looked at Xie Qingliang again. He turned his head away in a weak heart. I knew it was his idea. He must have been stimulated by me and General Gu Shao that day, and he was afraid that I would be unfavorable to Xie Mengyao in the future, so he wanted to attack me. I'm going to shark Xie Qingliang. But Xie Mengyao is also a little weird. After appreciating the messy flowers, I immediately asked the people below to check Xie Mengyao, and I learned a shocking gossip. It turned out that Xie Mengyao had a sweetheart. I immediately told Yuan Sun the news. He was so busy with government affairs that he didn't look up. I know. I was shocked. How would you know? He looked up at me with a smirk. She said it herself. I haven't come back to my senses for a long time. Is this the way of the world now? The ladies of Beijing are already so open and bold. I just wanted to say why Xie Mengyao was so unruly, but suddenly realized that this was really ridiculous. Yuan Sun also married 2 wives at a time. And am I a good woman? I'm just pretending to be a man. Don't be a real man. I obviously don't have that thing, but at that moment I seemed to be possessed by that thing. Miss Xie is obviously frank and upright, and she is really a model for women, so I asked, who is her sweetheart? Yuan Sun was honest. I don't know. I don't have any digging ability, and I feel that he has to work in the East factory, and he really has no future. It seems that it is still very important to choose the right track, and Yuan Sun is okay as a prince. The eldest princess of Pingshi's concubine was folded, and the 8th prince immediately fell from the clouds into the mud. The old emperor was furious, not just because the water was not cured, but because he turned a blind eye to the suffering people for the sake of false fame. There is not even a little mercy, let alone the prince. It is not qualified to be a county order. Yuan Sun sighed. The pain of hunger and cold. The sons and daughters feel the same way. One sentence aroused the guilt of the old emperor, and the matter was handed over to Yuan Sun again. Don't look at it as ostensibly cleaning up the mess for the 8th prince, but in fact it is a good opportunity to gather the hearts of the people and show his face. Mater Shan was unwilling and tried to let the 8th prince share a share of Yuan Sun's credit, but I stopped him. The next day, when Master Mei went down to court, the horse was suddenly frightened and caused Lord Mei to have a blue nose and swollen face. Actually, it wasn't difficult. but the little eunuch who was waiting in the stable quietly put a needle under Master Mei's saddle. Xiao Wei and I found a good position and enjoyed this wonderful scene together. The 8th prince settled down, and the 3rd prince began to jump again. In fact, in terms of intelligence and wit, the 3rd prince is not ranked. But he is the son of the queen's mother, and he has a concubine. It's funny, the old emperor himself didn't come out of the queen mother's belly, and the queen herself took it seriously, but the queen's mother family is indeed very powerful. There have been several generals, several queens, and the blood of the dynasty is firmly bound, and there are many younger brothers, and there is a very responsive posture in the court. The roots are deep and the leaves are large. So it is difficult to get them. I still want to urge Yuan Sun to get married quickly and stabilize the relationship with the Xie family and the Gu family. Before I could think about how to persuade me, Gu Winshan came to resign from me. There's something bad in Shijiang. I have to go back early to help my father. He scratched his head. Do you want to come with me? I'll beg the emperor to take you away. Okay. I was very touched by his heart, and told him to hurry away. Dongcheng is in full swing. I'm stupid to leave at this time, and then the benefits will be for Xiao Wei. I repeatedly promised to take care of Gu Linlin, and Gu Winshan turned back 3 times in one step. Yuan Sun gave him a 1,000-mile horse and told him to set off quickly, but as soon as he walked out the door, he ran back and stuffed a small wooden box for me. You picked it that day. Keep it as a memento. I opened it and took a look. And in the box was the golden hairpin I picked when I accompanied Gu Linlin to choose jewelry that day. Yuan Sun's voice sounded gloomily behind me. What does he mean by sending you this? I looked at his back in the distance and said succinctly, bribe me. Seeing that Yuan Sun was puzzled, I explained, if Xie Mengyao and Gu Linlin fight in the future, I will have to help Gu Linlin for this golden hairpin. Yuan Sun was silent. Are you short of money? I'm not short of money, and I'm playing guessing with Hehe now, using solid gold and silver buns. We are also a little rich woman now, and we don't feel distressed when we lose money, but every time I hooked her nose, I gave her back the money. I just want to play with people who are willing to lose to me. When General Gu Shao guest boxing with me, he also lost a lot of money to me. I was overjoyed. When the master gets married, I can still knock a sum from Master Xia. Yuan Sun sighed. Okay, he didn't like me every time, but soon, it was not only me who urged him, but also Gu Linlin. She was very urgent, and she couldn't wait to become the 6th princess on the 2nd day. But if Gu Linlin wants to marry in, Xie Mengyao must also marry. So Xie Mengyao and Gu Linlin almost entered the Fenghe Hall with a sedan chair on the front and rear feet. Gu Linlin almost wanted to shoot the horse and rush, but I held it down. Gu Winshan is not here, so I will prepare for Gu Linlin's marriage for him, and I can be regarded as worthy of the wine he invited me to drink, the money he lost to me, and Xie Qingliang who helped me. After kneeling down with the ancestor, according to the will of the old emperor, Yuan Sun had to go to Xie Mengyao first, and I would come to Gu Linlin's side. Gu Linlin didn't wait for Yuan Sun. He directly lifted his hijab and drove everyone else away. She held my hand tightly. Grandpa Su. Thank you for your idea. General Gu Shao returned to western Xinjiang and sent me letters from time to time. From his letters, I can probably tell that the western frontier is not very good. In the past, Gu Linlin and Gu Winshan were the right and left hands of General Gu, but now that Gu Linlin is married to Beijing, the western frontier army will inevitably be a little uncomfortable. Gu Linlin didn't adapt either. The entire courtyard of Gu Mansion was bulldozed by her, and it was turned into a small martial arts arena, and all martial arts were staged every day. She was a little wilted after Gu Winshan left before. I couldn't bear it, so I asked Yuan Sun to take Gu Linlin to hunt and let go of the wind. I didn't see that she was about to wilt. It's just that a Xie Qingliang was inserted halfway, and he insisted on pulling Xie Mengyao with him. It is estimated that he was afraid that Yuan Sun and Gu Linlin would be too successful in cultivating their relationship, and Xie Mengyao would suffer at that time. However, Xie Mengyao doesn't like to go out at all. She only likes to read and write. The hunting made her miserable. The smell of horses made her unbearable, and the raw skinning of foxes made her almost sick. I fanned her and took some wild mint to get rid of her smell. This bloody fox skin also said that it was going to be given to Xia Mengyao. I think she is about to have nightmares. However, Gu Linlin had the opportunity to ride a horse and gallop, and she was finally happy. And she was the one who wanted to send the fox skin to Xia Mengyao. After Xia Mengyao categorically refused, Gu Linlin generously forwarded it to me. However, Yuan Sun said that he wanted a fox and exchanged it with the sable fur he shot down. I'm so happy. Sable fur is more expensive than fox fur, and it's a fool not to change it. Gu Linlin had a good time, but Gu Winshan was not very happy. General Gu sent 3 urgent messages in a row, saying that Western Xinjiang was a little unbearable. The ministers talked a lot. General Peng was too old, and he was born in the mountains, so he couldn't fight the grasslands. General Qin is the right age, but there is no shortage of people in the north. Speaking of which, I hate the old General Gu for aging too fast. Why don't you be a few years younger? The emperor wanted to hear the opinions of the princes. Yuan Sun discussed with me for a long time, and finally came to the conclusion that Gu Linlin could go back. She was born in western Xinjiang, grew up in the military camp, and no one knows the Shi barbarians and the western Xinjiang army better than her. But Gu Linlin's return like this will definitely not work. Not to mention how the ministers could allow women to lead the troops. They also said that Gu Linlin is a big girl with yellow flowers. What is the matter if she is mixed with men? It can be seen that they have never been beaten by Gu Linlin. And the fist is as big as a sandbag. But this matter is easy to solve. I told Gu Linlin to hurry up and marry Yuan Sun and go back as a princess, which barely makes sense, as long as you go back. It's not up to your father and your brother to have the final say on whether to bring troops or not. What do you want to do with that false name? The old emperor is to make a queen a general, and it won't be useful. Gu Linlin broke into Yuan Sun's study single-handedly that day. Hurry up, let's get married. After all, the old emperor still made Peng Changqing, the son of General Peng, a general. This rammer is a military division type general. And he has the idea to analyze the battle situation, but he can't pick his shoulders and can't resist. However, the old emperor also agreed to Gu Linlin's return to western Xinjiang to visit relatives, Xia Mengyao, and I went to see her off. She was dressed in a well-fitting cold light iron armor, heroic and sassy. This set of armor was specially tailored for her by General Gu, flexible and strong. She put on the armor, and I seemed to have just seen the real Gu Linlin for the first time. At parting, she bowed solemnly in my direction. Thank you, and thank you for me, Your Highness. Sixth, all I said was the piece. Xia Mengyao embroidered Buddhist scriptures to bless her in Gu Linlin's underwear, and brought her a lot of medicine supplies. You must not use it, just use it for others. Gu Linlin's horse raised a cloud of smoke and dust like an arrow and shot towards the western frontier. She went back first. And Peng Changqing handled all the other processes and paperwork in Beijing, including raising food and conscription. I looked at it coldly. This Peng Changqing is quite reliable and honest. If he dared to make a trick for Gu Linlin, he would break his neck the next day. I am becoming more and more skilled now, and Peng Changqing is not the first person to be threatened by me. Now that I am in the palace, everyone has to call me Grandpa Su, and even concubine Qin has to avoid me. But today I met her on purpose. Nyang Nyang, where are you going? I stood in front of Chen Guifei's sedan chair with a smile in my arms. Is Nyang Nyang going to visit the 8th prince? The minions are just coming from there, TSK. The minions are sad when they see it. Chen Guifei's face changed drastically. Yu Gonggang Su, why did you say that? I let out a long sigh. I don't know what's going on. The 8th prince suddenly fell ill yesterday, with a high fever that doesn't go away. And he is covered with red rashes, and now his face is scratched one by one, and he is afraid when he looks at the minions. What is it? The plague? Right, shut up, Chen Guifei said sharply. My son just occasionally feels the wind and cold. What plague is not plague? Come, put him. The maid beside her whispered in fear. Master, Chen Guifei closed her mouth suddenly. Those people in her palace who disappeared in vain, Maitre Shan, who has never been able to come back to the court, constantly impeached the Chen family's excerpts. I suddenly understood why she felt when she watched me squeak and scream that day. Watching other people's fears is the best pastime in the palace. I saluted her refreshedly. Nyang Nyang, go slowly. The slave will not be sent. Then I swaggered away. I'm not going to kill them all at once. The jumping grasshoppers are the most fun. After Xie Mengyao married Yuan Sun, she was about to take charge of the affairs of the Fenghe Palace. However, Xie Mengyao said that I managed Hehe very well before, and what happened in the past is still what is going on now. She is such an emotionally stable and talented noblewoman. When she spoke to me, her voice was always gentle, with a kind smile on her face. The smile was soft and warm, and my heart was crisp when I saw it. I really want to know who her sweetheart is, and the loss of Xie Mengyao must be heartbreaking. However, this answer does not need to be answered by Xie Mengyao, and it is not even told to me by my colleagues in Dongcheng. I saw it myself, during the Mid-Autumn Festival family banquet. Prince Anding's son Yuan Su kept looking at Xie Mengyao frequently. His eyes were painful and lingering. I felt that something was wrong, so I could only move my body silently and stand between Xie Mengyao and Shitzi. Look at it again, rip your eyes out. Xie Mengyao's eyes were also erratic, and she lowered her head from time to time to wander. If your acting skills are not good, don't frown, the blind can see it. But I glanced at Yuan Sun, who was still pouring himself wine very calmly. Not knowing that his eldest wife was about to run away with someone else, if I was just extremely suspicious at that time, when I saw Xie Mengyao pulling with the prince in the imperial garden. The question about Xie Mengyao's sweetheart was finally answered and confirmed. Shitzi's face was full of pain, and his voice was full of remorse. Do you really want to marry him? Xie Mengyao's voice was unexpectedly calm. I'm already married to the 6th Highness. He was so painful that he almost cried. Sister Yao, Xie Mengyao said in a low voice. Why didn't you go that day? Do you know how ridiculous it is for me to stand there alone? Shitzi defended in a panic. You listened to my explanation, Sister Yao. That day, my mother had a heart attack, and I had to serve by my side. Xie Mengyao's voice had a heart-wrenching relief. Yes, she will definitely have a heart attack, because she has never liked me. And she never thought of me being the princess of the world. No, she's just not well. Xie Mengyao took a step back. Now that it's over, what's the point of pursuing those? Now I'm the 6th princess, you're the prince's son, and your fate and I are over. Shitzi took a step forward and said in a fierce tone, No, I can't live without you. Sister Yao, are you willing to go with me? There is no place for us at the ends of the earth. Listen, is this talking about human language? Not to mention that this is unrealistic. Princess Xie Mengyao deserves it well. Why do you want to go to the ends of the earth with you to suffer? Besides, you have never been out of the capital. Do you know how far the ends of the earth are? How long does it take to ride in an ox cart on the road? I still have a bag of melon seeds in my arms, but I am afraid that there will be a sound when I eat it, which will disturb the pair of mandarin ducks, the queen. Shitzi suddenly jumped a step like a sheep had an epileptic seizure. The queen mother appeared in front of them with only one palace maid and a smile. Isn't this the Prince of Anding and the 6th princess? She sighed regretfully. Back then, you almost married my son. But it's a pity, there are shallow lines at the corners of her eyes, and she always has the taste of a victor when she laughs. The queen was pleasant. You two are here, and there is not a single slave by your side. Could it be that you are having a private meeting, 6th princess? This palace remembers that you and Yuan Sun have only been married for a short time. How can this be? After a meaningful pause, she was about as shameless. Once she said this, Xie Mengyao would become the most amorous princess in the palace the next day, not to mention how Yuan Sun and the Xie family will be impacted. I took a step forward and came out of the rockery where I was hiding, interrupting her. Say hello to the queen. I held Xie Mengyao's arm. Nyang Nyang, your handkerchief was picked up, and it landed behind the rock. By the way, He kicked the son of the world whose knees were so weak that he was about to kneel down and beg for mercy. He was so excited that he didn't dare to speak. The queen looked at me coldly. It turned out to be Gongdang-su. Why didn't you follow your own master? I respectfully said, the princess and the 6 princes are husband and wife, and the servants serve the same master. The queen looked at me coldly and sneered. Gongdang-su is really capable. This palace was finally able to see it today. Yuan Sun has you as a minion. It's really a blessing. I knelt down and kowtowed without changing my face and heartbeat. Nyang Nyang has tormented the slave. The gravel hurt my knees and my forehead. The queen sneered and turned to leave. Then you can kneel here for an hour, Guizhi. You are here looking at Gongdang-su. Xia Mengyao wanted to say something, but I was already thanking her quickly. Thank you for the reward. The situation is stronger than people. Qin Guifei doesn't dare to touch me now. But the queen still dares. I think I've really come out of experience. And before Xie Qingliang reprimanded me twice, I immediately shouted in my heart that I wanted to shark him. Now my heart is like water. And I only think about how to kill the 3 princes next. I said softly, Xia Nyang Nyang and Shitzi should hurry back to the palace. The night breeze is cold, and I am worried about catching a cold. Guizhi sneered. It's a good and loyal minion. Gongdang-su is so good to kneel. After an hour, I don't know if you can have your legs. I smiled faintly. Auntie is right. I still haven't experienced enough. I still want to shark her. Xia Mengyao hurriedly went to move the rescuers. And I knelt still like a mountain. I couldn't kneel when I knelt with Yuan Sun in the past, but now I'm used to it. Even after Guizhi stepped on me, I could still praise her for the beautiful pendant hanging from her waist. Looks like I've seen it somewhere, I pondered. Is it from Grandpa Liang? Guizhi sneered. Gongdang-su's set is useless to slaves. I nodded. Yes, Aunt Guizhi and Grandpa Liang. One is a mother's person, and the other is a Majesha's person. They are really a good match. Father-in-law Liang recently got another piece of mutton fat warm jade, which is in the shape of a gourd, so he must have given it to his aunt. Guizhi's voice was delayed for a long time before he spoke with a hint of stubbornness. Naturally, I stopped talking and knelt in peace. Yuan Sun came just in time, but my knee still bled a little. Xie Mengyao guiltily took me the medicine. I reassured her that there was something to talk about tomorrow, and she left with a heavy heart. He warmly drugged me, and I limped. I'll be up tonight. He stopped me. He for you. I touched her head. You've been worth 3 days. Go sleep. Alas, what can I do without this wind and palace? As soon as I pushed the door into Yuan Sun's bedroom, I was picked up by him. I was startled. Master. He put me on the soft couch to look at my knees. And I quickly stopped him. Don't stay in the eyes of the master. Yuan Sun pursed his lips and pulled my trouser leg with his hand stubbornly. What's so unsightly about this? I was sincere. I want you to rub my medicine away with a sweep of my trouser legs. He didn't speak, just looked at me blindly, and there was still a little grievance in his eyes. After he and Xie Mengyao got married, they still had their own rooms, except for the wedding night. He still only needed me and he to accompany him every night. I leaned over and said, do you know who Xie Mengyao's sweetheart is? I'll tell you, he sneered, that bastard. Sooner or later, I said, it's not useful, but it's also useful. Isn't his eldest sister married to the queen's mother's family? Yuan Sun wrapped me in a blanket, and he sat on the stool next to the soft couch, fiddling with the smoke cage and pondering. This is a line. I cricked until midnight. And finally I couldn't stay up and fell asleep on the soft couch together. In the middle of the night, Yuan Sun seemed to mutter my name twice, and a gust of wind and rain finally gushed out. Xie Mengyao came to me the next day, and I reassured her that I would take care of this matter. She was in a low mood. I used to think that he was elegant and gentle, and he was polite, but his mother disliked me for loving to participate in poetry meetings before, and showed up. But he always said that his mother didn't have any bad intentions. I reassured her, it's not a bad thing to participate in the poetry party. Xie Mengyao's voice was very low. Actually, I know that after His Majesty decrees the marriage, I will make an agreement with him to go together to plead to the elders of both sides and ask them to fulfill the 2 of us. But on that day, he didn't come to the door for a long time. She covered her face. It's my fault. I found that Xie Mengyao and young Guren have a common problem. People who read too much are stupid. Yesterday, the prince only cared about venting his pretentious so-called intentions, and he never thought about what Xie Mengyao's reputation would do if he was seen in that situation. Sure enough, I was caught by the queen by the pigtails, and almost gave me a pair of knees to be wasted. Xie Mengyao was almost killed by the prince. How could she still think about who was right and who was wrong in this matter? If you want me to say, just cut the grass and eradicate it. I gestured. Xie Mengyao's face turned pale and pale. Don't. This is too much, father-in-law Su. It's good if I don't see him again. It's really unnecessary. I explained. I'm not trying to kill him. We mean castrate him. The queen would definitely not give up, but before she could do anything more. The news of the great victory in western Xinjiang came back. Peng Changqing was quite honest, and reported that he had been sitting in the rear, relying on Gu Winshan and Gu Linlin in front, and the Gu family brothers and sisters were full of tacit understanding. One charged, one swept the formation, and killed the other party without leaving a piece of armor.
And forth, I pointed at Peng Changqing, thinking that it was the relationship between this outsider, and simply hinted, is General Peng going to rest first? Peng Changqing did not move. The Gu brothers and sisters had no intention of driving away. What's the matter? They're the best now. Before I could express my dissatisfaction, Peng Changqing knelt down first, and I was worried about his knees at that sound. The last general deserves death. Please let Su Gong be gracious. The last general can die. But Lin Lin is innocent. It's all the general's fault. I narrowed my eyes. What did you do? Gu Linlin sighed. Forget it. Ayuan is not an outsider. Besides, this stomach is almost impossible to hide. She looked at me sincerely. I'm pregnant. Suddenly it went dark in front of my eyes. I looked at her, and then at Peng Changqing. Finally, he looked at Gu Winshan. Then I asked Gu Linlin from the bottom of my heart, is it really his fault? Peng Changqing didn't look like someone with such guts. Gu Linlin smiled. Actually, it's me who was drunk. I felt faint in front of my eyes. I said that the western Xinjiang is still too far away, and the system of the eastern factory is not particularly perfect. So such a major event has been hidden from me for so long. I thought about it for a while and asked if the child was going to be raised here or sent back to Beijing. Gu Linlin said that it was naturally Xinjiang, but she didn't know how to mention it to Yuan Sun. So let me ask for her. I can understand Gu Linlin. Yuan Sun married too, and she naturally wanted to marry too. The power of example is endless. Fortunately, the emperor of the western frontier is far away, and it is not difficult to hide a child. Peng Changqing kowtowed to me. Thank you, Grandpa Su. General Gu was originally worried that Gu Linlin and Yuan Sun would not see each other once a year, and it would be difficult to guarantee the offspring. But now that he has a child, he is very satisfied anyway, no matter who the child's father is. Don't you call him Grandpa? I have a feeling that the family may be used to licking blood from the knife edge, and they love the thrill of being on the waistband of their heads. The nourishing things that Xie Mengyao asked me to bring may only be a ginseng that can be used. And I drink milky white mutton soup and eat large pieces of meat during confinement here. And I guess I can't drink her sweet things. However, the satin fabric rewarded by the old emperor can still make some diapers for Gu Linlin's children. I immediately wrote a secret letter to Yuan Sun, asking him to congratulate Gu Linlin on adding a new child. I think he should be able to understand what I mean. He was a generous person, and immediately replied that Gu Linlin's health was important, and he would send the doctor and the midwife immediately. And if someone asks, he is willing to be the child's nominal father. Gu Linlin is very satisfied and willing to recognize him as her nominal husband. Peng Changqing is also very generous. He happily does Gu Linlin's actual pillow person. Although Gu Linlin is pregnant, she still dances with knives and guns in the teaching field every day, but she doesn't ride horses and lead soldiers very much. However, Peng Changqing has been busy discussing the exchange of markets with the largest tribe in western Xinjiang recently, and he has not used much of his troops. Only Gu Winshan still led troops to patrol every day, and Gu Linlin kept an eye on her brother on the watchtower. Gu Winshan brought me with him when he was patrolling today, mainly to show me the lost territory we had regained, and to hunt by the way. I'm sorry that you haven't taken you out for so long, Gu Linlin said. Push me on the horse, I'm not a dog. So I don't need to slip, but I don't want to disappoint her. Gu Winshan was carrying a goshawk, he was riding a horse on the ground, and the eagle was circling leisurely in the sky. We put down the reins and let the horses go as they pleased. Isn't the West Frontier good? Gu Winshan asked. I nodded, looking at the endless grassland. It's really nice. Do you want to stay? Gu Winshan asked eagerly. I can exchange your military merits for you. Suddenly, the eagle let out several high-pitched calls. Gu Winshan stopped talking. He leaped off his horse with vigor, leaned on the ground and listened, squinting like a wolf. There's a group of horseback riders running toward us, not knowing what to do. Gu Winshan's expression became serious. He whistled, and the eagle swooped down for a while, and chirped twice. A1, you go back first. He patted my horse and said, inform Linlin. I didn't say anything more, just turned around and left. Not being a burden to him was already the biggest contribution I could make. I learned my riding skills at the palace's racecourse, but despite this, I rode my horse as best I could. Hurry, faster. I seemed to hear the cold sound of soldiers clashing in my ears, but I didn't dare look back. There seemed to be the sound of arrows breaking through the air. The horse got a little out of control, but I didn't dare to stop. It wasn't until I saw the reinforcements that I finally realized I had to tighten the reins. Eventually, I rolled off the horse, and my calves seemed to be unconscious. The moment before I passed out, I seemed to feel wet blood. When I woke up, I found myself in Gu Linlin's tent. With severe pain in my ankle, I was trying to think about how to use a crutch. Gu Linlin opened the curtain and came in, and looked at me silently for a long time. It's okay, my brother has already beaten them back. And they are some guerrillas who are dissatisfied with the Hehe tribe's agreement with us. Your calf is dislocated, and the doctor has already connected it. I waited quietly for her next sentence. You're here for Oiswei. I still didn't say anything. Gu Linlin strode up to me and hugged me into his arms. You've worked hard. She was hot, with a gentle bulge in her belly, and she let me cling to her stomach as if I were her child. I didn't speak, just shrunk into her arms. Don't be afraid. You don't have to go back. Shijiang is your home. I didn't cry, but I still felt my eyes moist. I didn't nod or shake my head, and after I finished my medicine, I went back to sleep. When I woke up again, I heard the conversation between Gu Winshan and Gu Linlin. Is she awake? Nope, and now, nope, and now, you're annoyed. I made a little noise, and there was a sound of talking outside. Gu Linlin walked in, but Gu Winshan only came in with a head. Can I come in? I wondered. When did you become so constrained? He walked in slowly. His expression was very sincere. His face was crimson and cowardly. Don't worry, we will never say it. I moved my ankle. The pain had eased a lot. And I looked at Gu Winshan with a smile. Then thank you very much. His face suddenly stiffened strangely, and then the red on his face quickly spread to his ears. Awan, he's trying to tell you that he's putting you in danger today. I'm sorry, Gu Linlin explained. I shook my head. How can I blame you for this? I'm causing you trouble. Gu Winshan was at a loss. I'll go and make amends to you. Okay. I stretched out my hand to stop. No need, just treat me like you used to. Or others will definitely see that you are tired. Gu Linlin looked at me. It's okay. He originally wanted to skin you too. My brother already likes you. He has thought about it, and when the time comes, he will exchange it for your free body. I looked at Gu Winshan in surprise. No one should be a man. Are you a broken sleeve? Gu Winshan was aggrieved. No, I just like you. I convinced my father. Linlin has a child. It doesn't matter if I don't marry a wife, but I know you're a woman now. I waved my hand like a fly. Go, and go. Don't play tricks on my father-in-law. I know how many pounds and tails I have. I'm just a scoundrel, and I have relied on my friendship with Yuan Sun since childhood to get to where I am today. I am cunning and treacherous. And the Dongcheng factory I established is an intelligence agency, which is in charge of catching other people's selfishness, and will do whatever it takes to achieve the goal, and specially trap others. Most of all, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I live my life and live freely. However, Gu Winshan should never like me like this. I won't leave the capital and come to the west for him. Shijiang is very beautiful. It is the home of Gu Winshan and Gu Linlin. But it is not where I grew up. The court where I grew up was full of dangers and unpredictable, and I could lose my life in the next moment, but I like it. It nourishes me, helps me shape me, and I can't do without this whirlpool of ambition and power. And Gu Winshan, he is a vigorous wild horse on the grassland, and like Gu Linlin, he is a frank and free lover, but not my love. I looked at him very seriously. You shouldn't be with me, even if I'm a woman. What about me? I heard a dusty voice. Yuan Sun wore a dusty riding outfit, lifted the curtain and walked in. What about me? Can I? He asked. I looked back in horror. He stood there tall and tired. Gu Linlin told me you were injured. I was stunned. Then I asked, what about the 3 princes? Yuan Sun choked up, and after a while said, Auntie will inform me at any time. My aunt is the eldest princess of Pingxi. Gu Winshan and Gu Linlin hurriedly saluted. Your Highness. Yuan Sun waved his hand. You guys should retreat first. Gu Linlin dragged Gu Winshan away. Yuan Sun kept looking at me. Yuan, he said. I looked at him calmly. You've always known, haven't you? Growing up together, even he knows it. How can he not know? He walked over slowly, step by step. I know. But you know what? Know that I've always been pleased with you. I love you. I like you. I think. I avoided his gaze. Minions don't dare. You're my friend, the only person I can trust. Yuan, do you really refuse? It turned out that he had always known my name was Yuan. In my trance, I seemed to be embraced by him. He was warm and firm, and he had the warmth of Gu Linlin. I know him too much. He knows me too long. There was an almost painful longing in Yuan Sun's embrace. I remembered that he really never had a concubine. All of a sudden, it got tricky. His lips were between my forehead and eyebrows, and they were getting hot. Actually, I've always wanted to give it a try. Maybe I like the way he keeps calling me Yuan. We've been together for too long and have been hiding from each other for too long. There's so much more I haven't told him, but it's a pity. I just received a secret message from Xiaowei. The Queen Mother is collecting evidence of my guilt and wants to kill me at all costs. She hates me to the core, so it's easy to find someone who hates me too. After all, I have offended a lot of people over the years. So it shouldn't matter if you're greedy for joy before you die, right? I'm not afraid of death at all, because I promised Yuan Sun. Promise me what? After the passion, I put on his clothes and lazily played with the candlesticks. I don't know when it's getting dark. I looked back. I promised you that I would put you on the throne, so, I smiled slightly. Kill me. This is what the history books will write in a long, long time. The 3rd Prince Yuan Qi suddenly raised troops to rebel and besiege the imperial city, but was predicted in advance by Dongcheng, and the 6th Prince Yuan Sun rushed back to the capital with a western Xinjiang army, defeated the rebels led by the 3rd Prince, and saved the dying old emperor. The old emperor was greatly moved, and sent orders to Yuan Sun on the spot. The queen blocked it, and counted what Yuan Sun had done. But it turned out later that these were all caused by the eunuch Su Linyuanyang beside him, who deceived his superiors and subordinates, and had nothing to do with him. Although Yuan Sun was deceived by Su Linyuan before, he finally realized his sinister intentions. Su Linyuan was beheaded on the spot at the entrance of the vegetable market. Since then, the politics have been clear. Emperor Jiangwen, who ascended the throne, was diligent in government and loved the people, worked hard. And the people lived and worked in peace and contentment, all of whom were grateful to Dade. Almost. Xie Qingliang looked at what I wrote and frowned. It's easy to be exposed. I lay on the rocking chair and swayed. No, our family is the head of the East Factory. What do we say? The dead man is a prisoner, and now that I have reverted to the title of Yuan, I am still the head of my Dongcheng. I can still enter and leave the palace at will, and I still live in the capital as I like. Power is the best panacea. It can bring people back from the dead, let people do whatever they want, and let people enjoy the best stubble tea. I am reluctant to give up such power because I have been fighting for it for a long, long time. Yuan Sun respected my efforts. He made Dongcheng a decent department. Xiao Wei was very happy, and from then on he could also be honored by those courtiers as Lord Wei. Xie Qingliang muttered, now that you have recovered your identity, can't you dress up as a woman? I remember when I told him. He was stunned all day. In the end, I changed Xie Mingyao's clothes and appeared in front of him, and he seemed to have finally come back to his senses. But ever since, he has always been fond of giving me women's jewelry and clothes. As long as it's expensive, I'll take it, I reasoned. I'm used to it. He turned his head to the side. Then do you want to go to the Lantern Festival with me? I glanced at him. Okay. Xie Qingliang's smile stained his eyes, and I continued to add, Gu Winshan and Gu Linlin are going back to the capital to accompany Peng Changqing to visit relatives. He said several times that he really wants to see the Lantern Festival in Beijing. And I can take you with me when the time comes. His face darkened. Isn't it filial piety with the Pang family who seduced the concubine? I emphasized. Your Majesty has already made an order, and Gu Linlin has already reconciled. I touched the raccoon slave in my arms. Xia Qingliang, who was already Prime Minister Xia, still had a distorted face. Even so, what kind of system? I held out my hand, a tael of silver. Xia Qingliang was aggrieved for a while, but still gave it. We said okay, and he said that he would give money if he said what kind of system he would become. Okay, I'm going to enter the palace to see Yuan Sun. It just so happens that I have something to tell your Majesty. Xia Qingliang followed behind me. Let's take my car and go with me. I looked at the palace from afar, and I just thought that the future was very good. Of course, it's good to be Yuan dash, but why not continue to work hard and strive to become 9,000 years old? Since I can go all the way from a little eunuch to the emperor's left and right hands, then why can't this country divide half of me? The spring is infinite, and the scenery is also unlimited. ENDS.